Japan's population collapse. Why 1.5 million ghost homes signal economic doom. Imagine buying a house for $1. Not a fixer-upper, not some flood-damaged wreck in the middle of nowhere. A real house. In Japan, one of the most technologically advanced, economically developed countries on the face of this earth. And nobody wants it. This isn't a thought experiment. This is happening right now. Government-listed, legally transferred, for the price of a candy bar. But here's the thing. It's not because these homes are worthless. It's because there is no one left to live in them. Japan has over 9 million vacant homes. 9 million. That number is growing every single year, and it is dragging the entire economy down with it.
What you're about to see isn't just a Japan story. It is a warning. A slow-motion economic catastrophe that the rest of the developed world is sleepwalking straight toward. Let's get into it. In Japanese, they call them Akiya, empty house. That's the literal translation. Empty house. And as of the latest government census, Japan has over 9 million of them. That's roughly 1 in every 7 homes across the entire country, sitting vacant. Doors locked, lights off, grass swallowing the front yard. Nobody coming back. 1 in 7. But here's where it gets really alarming. By 2033, less than 10 years from now, Japanese researchers project that number could reach 30% of all housing stock in the country.
3 in 10 homes. Empty. Now, of those 9 million vacant properties, around 1.5 million are classified as the most severe category, what the government calls Category D. Structurally dangerous, roofs caving in, walls rotting, beyond any reasonable repair. And yet, they can't be demolished because of a legal nightmare we'll get to in a few minutes. Now, you might be thinking, okay, empty houses. That's sad, sure. But isn't that just a real estate problem? A rural decline thing? Small towns dying. Doesn't that happen everywhere? No. This is a symptom of something far deeper. And once you understand the machine running underneath all of this, you won't look at your own country the same way. To understand the ghost homes, you have to understand the people. Or rather, the lack of them. Japan's total fertility rate right now sits at approximately 1.2 children per woman. To maintain a stable population, not grow, just maintain, you need 2.1. Japan hasn't been anywhere near that since the 1970s. The result? Japan's population peaked in 2008 at 128 million people. Today, it's around 124 million. And by 2070, within the lifetime of most people watching this, official government projections put that number at 87 million. That is a loss of nearly 40 million people. Gone. Not emigrated. Just not born. And Japan isn't just shrinking, it's aging. Fast. Nearly 30% of Japan's entire population is already over 65. The highest proportion of any country in recorded history. More people dying than being born. More homes left behind. A shrinking workforce trying to support an absolutely exploding elderly population.
But here's what makes this a doom loop, not just a decline. When young people see no economic future in their hometown, they leave. They go to Tokyo, Osaka, somewhere with jobs, opportunity, a pulse. When they leave, local businesses close down. When businesses close, there are even fewer reasons for the next person to stay. And the homes? They just sit there, rotting, season after season, generation after generation.
So, logical question, why don't local governments just bulldoze them? These things are dangerous. They're eyesores. They bring down surrounding property values. Why not just knock them down and move on?
Oh, I wish it were that simple. Under Japanese inheritance law, when someone dies, their property passes to their heirs. Straightforward enough, right? Except, the heirs are often scattered across the country, sometimes completely unknown. Sometimes we're talking multiple generations deep, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, who never even knew this property existed. If nobody formally registers the inheritance, the property enters legal limbo. The government cannot touch it, the neighbors cannot touch it, and the heirs, many of whom don't even want it, often refuse to claim it. Because claiming it means inheriting the tax debt, the demolition liability, all of it. So what do? Nothing. They do nothing, which is, legally speaking, the rational choice. It is, in every sense of the phrase, a legal black hole. It swallows homes and never lets them go.
Japan did pass new legislation in 2023 requiring mandatory inheritance registration by 2024, which is a step. But most experts will tell you honestly, it is too little, too late. The wave is already too large, the inertia too powerful. One law doesn't undo 50 years of demographic gravity. All right, let's talk money, because this is where the alarm bells get loud. Property is wealth. For most Japanese families, like most families anywhere, their home is their single largest asset. It's their retirement, their security, their legacy. But when a country fills up with homes nobody wants, property values don't just stagnate, they collapse. Entire regions, entire prefectures, decades of family wealth evaporated. When your home is worth nothing, your net worth is worth nothing. And when an aging population with no rising asset values, shrinking pension payouts, and a government already drowning in debt tries to retire at scale, you get a social time bomb that makes Western pension crises look manageable by comparison.
Japan's national debt right now is over 260% of GDP, the highest of any developed nation on Earth. The government is spending massively on social services for elderly citizens, while the tax base shrinks because the workforce is getting smaller every single year. The ratio of working-age Japanese citizens supporting each retiree is projected to fall to roughly 2 to 1 within the next decade. 2 to 1. It used to be nearly 6 to 1. And here's the cruel irony in all of this. Tokyo is booming. Right now, luxury apartments, tech investment, record tourism numbers, the capital looks incredible. But while Tokyo gleams, the rest of the country is hollowing out. And you cannot hollow out enough of a country for long enough without eventually feeling it at the center. The ghost homes aren't just an aesthetic problem. They're a balance sheet problem, a labor problem, a national identity problem. And above everything else, a time problem. Because time is the one resource Japan is running out of fastest. Real quick, before we get into what this means for the rest of the world, if you're getting value from this, hit subscribe. We do exactly this kind of deep dive on slow-burning economic stories that don't make headlines until it's way too late to ignore them. All right, back to Japan. Japan is often called a demographic laboratory. It got to this point first. It got here faster than almost anyone expected. And now the whole world has a front row seat to watch what happens next. But it won't be the last in line. South Korea right now has the lowest fertility rate of any country in the entire world, 0.72, below Japan, below every nation on Earth. China, despite its 1.4 billion people, is now officially shrinking. Decades of the one-child policy gutted the generational replacement rate, and now the bill is coming.
Chinese real estate is already in a structural crisis that looks uncomfortably familiar. Southern and Eastern Europe, Italy, Spain, Greece, Poland, rural abandonment, ghost towns, young people flooding into capital cities while the countryside empties out. Sound familiar? What Japan is showing us is the endgame of a demographic model that most of the developed world quietly adopted in the 20th century and never thought through to its conclusion. More than 50 countries currently have fertility rates below the replacement level. More than half the world's major economies are on Japan's trajectory, just decades behind. The ghost homes of rural Japan aren't an anomaly. They're a preview. To be fair, this is not a completely hopeless picture. There are some things working. Some rural Japanese towns have genuinely succeeded at attracting remote workers. Urban professionals looking for a slower life, cheaper housing, a different kind of meaning. A handful of villages have actually stabilized their population, which, given everything we've talked about, is kind of remarkable. Japan has also quietly, cautiously begun loosening its immigration policies. Not dramatically, but the door that was essentially sealed shut for generations is now cracking open, slowly. And robotics and automation? Japan is ahead of almost every nation on Earth in deploying technology to compensate for labor shortages. Robot caregivers, automated agriculture, AI-assisted manufacturing. They are trying. But let's be straight about the math. None of this reverses a 50-year demographic trend in any meaningful time frame. These are patches. Thoughtful patches, maybe, but patches on a structural wound that runs very, very deep. Japan's population is going to keep falling. The ghost homes are going to keep multiplying. The economic pressure is going to keep building. The question isn't whether Japan faces a reckoning. The question is how severe and how long, and whether the rest of the world will have the wisdom to learn something from watching it happen in slow motion. I hope we do. There's an old Japanese concept called mono no aware, the bittersweet awareness of impermanence, the beauty and the sadness of things that cannot last. The ghost homes of Japan are, in a strange way, a monument to that idea. To generations who built something extraordinary.
To lives fully lived. To a country that rose faster than perhaps any civilization in modern history, and then, quietly, began to exhale. But economic systems don't feel poetry. They feel pressure. And the pressure building inside Japan's hollowing economy is not beautiful. It is not poetic. It is a warning. A warning that growth has limits, that demographics are destiny, that the choices a society makes about family, work, migration, what a good life looks like, compound across generations in ways that feel invisible, right up until they don't. Japan got here first. The question is, who's next?